In 1996, my friends Mike and Meg adopted 3 little girls from Russia, triplets. Stacia and I drove Meg to Dulles Airport to meet Mike when he returned with the little ladies, who were 5 years old. It was getting late when we got them home to Mechanicsville, Virginia, but Meg wanted to give them a warm bath before putting them to bed. And the Whirlpool tub seemed to be just the right size for all 3 at once. So Meg filled the tub with warm water, turned on the jets, and when she lifted the first triplet to put her in the tub, little Christina started screaming. Bloody murder, you know. Meg hesitated, but when Christina's foot touched the water, she stopped screaming and she smiled. Instead of the chilling plunge in icy water she was expecting, Christina was enveloped in a cocoon of delight. You see, at 5 years of age, Christina had never experienced warm water, much less bathed in it. Well, the triplets quickly adapted to life in the United States. They became particularly fond of Sunday worship, and they especially liked singing. And because English was their second language, they learned to speak it long before they learned to read it. So when the music started in church, they sang out loud and long, and whatever the words they thought they had heard for that particular hymn, that's what they sang. They elicited quite a few chuckles on Thanksgiving. The service then I think it was Market Street Church in Onancock, Virginia. They could be heard above the rest of the congregation in their rousing rendition of Bringing in the Cheese. Well, I laughed when Meg told me about it, but I didn't laugh too hard. When I was the triplets' age, I thought the song was about shepherds bringing in the sheep. Indeed, the idea of sowing and harvesting, of bringing in the sheaves, have held an important place in Protestant Christianity. And with good reason. Jesus tended to teach in agricultural parables. I mean, think of the parables that he told about vineyards and sowers and fig trees and olive trees, and think of the sheep and the goats. Remember the ox in the ditch? I believe Jesus was a farmer or a gardener or a shepherd rather than a carpenter, as he is so often represented. And it makes perfect sense to me that Jesus worked on the land because his message was so focused on the promise of new life. Even in today's gospel reading from Matthew, Jesus uses agricultural language. Jesus had been going around all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and proclaiming the good news that the kingdom of heaven had come near. Matthew tells us that when Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. So Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Well, this is a marvelous statement, and it showed Jesus' understanding that each of us has a part to play in establishing God's kingdom on earth. But since I was a small child, I've heard the scripture used to justify the destruction of cultures older than our own through the introduction of missionaries to proselytize and demean native beliefs and indoctrinate people into beliefs for which they lack any context for understanding. The harvest was invariably presented as a harvest of souls for Christ, new converts to Christianity, more people attending church. That was the preaching I heard as a child. But as an adult, I've come to believe that this is not at all what Christ meant by sending workers into the harvest. I mean, listen to what Jesus actually did. Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to cure every disease and every sickness. Then Jesus sent them out with these instructions. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment. Well, you might have noticed that Jesus didn't say anything about converting folks, condemning folks, judging or demeaning anyone's beliefs. He simply said to tell them that heaven is near. Heaven is here. The only thing Jesus authorized his disciples to do for other people was to cure them, cleanse them, raise them up, and cast out evil. No payment was necessary. No payment was expected. No payment, no change of heart, no conversion. Not even acknowledgement was required. Jesus told his disciples that whatever health was freely given to them, they should freely give to others. But this was always Jesus' message. As I have washed your feet, so you should wash each other's feet. As I have laid down my life for you, so should you lay down your lives for each other. As I have loved you, so you should love each other. So, what is the harvest in which Christ would have us labor? What is it he would have us do? Well, look at those to whom he sent his disciples: the sick, the dying, the outcast, the demonized. These are the troubled, the unloved, and the unlovable suffering souls to whom Jesus sent the 12. Why should these not be the same folks to whom he sends us? It's a tall order, I know, but maybe we could start with something a little bit easier, like our neighbor. Maybe we could speak to them in love and peace. Maybe we could anticipate their needs and genuinely care about them. Maybe we could stop judging them and insisting we get our way. Once we have that mastered, well, then we can move on to the tougher cases. The criminally insane, pedophiles, murderers, and people who drive too slowly in the passing lane. The harvest is ready. The sheaves are ready to be brought in. The cheese is ready to be brought in as well. And all we have to do to fill the barns and the silos and the granaries is to love one another. It is us Christ sends to the fields this time. The psalmist in Psalm 126 sang, "Those who go out weeping, carrying the seed, will come again with joy, shouldering the sheaves." And for that, thanks be to God.